is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, we begin with a stern warning from the Kremlin. Vladimir Putin says oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz could halt within a month. He threatens to cut off Europe off the Russian energy before any decoupling measures can take effect. While tensions rise, Turkey places its military on high alert. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan activates all air defenses and deploys F-16s to secure borders amid Middle East conflicts. Beyond border defenses, the White House defends its Iran strikes. President Trump says a B-2 raid prevented a nuclear threat. Operation Roaring Lion has destroyed over 80% of Iran's missile launchers, he claims. From military to diplomacy, Philippines highlights women's role in national progress. Marcos Jr. tells the UN that women's status reflects a nation's strength and pledges international collaboration to protect and uplift them. Back home, Senate heat intensifies over alleged corruption. Senator Rodante Marcoleta demands Blue Ribbon Committee hearings on the Brave 18 claims linking former soldiers to cash-filled flood control deals. Meanwhile, Japan marks a post-nuclear milestone. Authorities said much of Fukushima is now safe for residents to return, though long-term recovery challenges remain. And finally, an action icon unveils his creative side. Jean-Claude Van Damme debuts an art exhibition in Hong Kong, showcasing personal works and his artistic vision. I'm Carlo de la Peña. Newsline World starts now. For the news, as Operation Roaring Lion enter its 10th day, the Israel Defense Forces have issued a stark warning to Iran's newly appointed Supreme Leader, Mujtaba Khamenei. Brigadier General Elfi Defrin revealed Monday that Israeli strikes have already eliminated nearly 2,000 Iranian personnel and decimated the regime's strategic transport network. Almar Forsuelo has the details.
U.S. President Donald Trump took to the podium to double down on his strike-first doctrine, framing the ongoing war against Iran as a preemptive necessity. Trump revealed Tuesday that intelligence gathered before the February 28 strikes showed that Tehran was only 1 week away from launching a massive coordinated attack across the Middle East. Trump specifically highlighted the role of the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, claiming their initial raid neutralized a nuclear program that was mere days from producing a weapon.
You know, if we didn't do that B-2 attack, Israel would have been wiped out. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks after that. And even now, I think they were looking to take over the Middle East, because when you look, and we have pretty good proof, all of those missiles that were so stupidly aimed at Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE.
Trump offered a highly optimistic assessment of the battlefield, stating that U.S. forces have already eliminated between 80 and 90% of Iran's missile launchers. He noted that the retaliatory barrages from Tehran have died down to a trickle as a CENTCOM shifts its focus to destroying the manufacturing plants where Iranian drones and ballistic missiles are produced. While praising military success, Trump lashed out at domestic opponents, accusing House Democrats of sabotaging national security by shutting down the Department of Homeland Security amid the regional crisis.
You know, Iran was supposed to be this big, powerful country. We wrapped the hell out of them. And, you know, I don't know when they cry uncle, but they should have cried it 2 days ago, right? But they don't have anything left.
Despite the global energy shock that has pushed oil prices past $100 a barrel, Trump insisted the U.S. economy remains the hottest in the world. He argued that the stock market would set even more records once the dark cloud of the Iranian threat is permanently removed. As the 10th day of operations concludes, the White House is projecting an air of total victory, even as regional allies like Turkey and the UAE remain on high alert for any final, desperate counter-strikes from the newly appointed leadership in Tehran. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SMNA News.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has placed Turkey's military on the highest level of vigilance, activating all national air defense operation centers as the conflict in the Middle East threatens to cross Turkish borders. In a stern address from Ankara, Erdogan revealed that Turkish F-116s and Raider aircrafts are now monitoring the nation's airspace 24/7 to insulate the country from the regional fire. Jane Conita tells us more.
Since the outbreak of hostilities on February 28, Turkey has remained in a state of high alert. On Tuesday, President Erdogan confirmed that the mobilization of state institutions is now complete, with military assets, including F-16 fighter jets, airborne early warning aircraft, and tanker planes patrolling the skies around the clock to intercept any potential spillover from the U.S.-Iran escalation. While Erdogan reported that there is currently no unusual movement along Turkey's immediate border, he emphasized that preventive measures at border crossings and sensitive provinces have been significantly increased.
Tedbiri ve temkini bir an olsun elden bırakmıyoruz. Hedefimiz öncelikle ülkemizi bu yangından uzakta tutmaktır. Türkiye'nin güvenliğini, 86 milyonun huzurunu temin etmek bu süreçte en büyük hassasiyetimizdir. F-16'larımız havadan erken ihbar ve tanker uçaklarımızla muhtemel tehditlere karşı hava sahamızı 7/24 gözlemliyoruz. Hava savunma harekat merkezlerimizin tamamı aynı esaslarla faaliyete geçmiş durumda.
Beyond military readiness, Erdogan sought to reassure the Turkish public regarding economic stability. He noted that the nation's central bank reserves currently stand at $200 billion, providing a solid capital structure to absorb the financial shocks currently rattling global stock and energy markets. However, the president's tone shifted when addressing unnamed regional actors, warning against provocative steps that could damage Turkey's long-standing diplomatic traditions and neighborly ties.
Samimi uyarılarımıza rağmen Türkiye'nin dostluğunu zora sokacak son derece yanlış ve provokatif adımlar atılmaya devam ediyor. Milletimizin kalbinde ve zihninde derin yaralar açacak 1000 yıllık komşuluk ve kardeşlik hukukumuza gölge düşürecek bir hesabın içine girilmemelidir.
With intensive diplomatic efforts involving talks with 16 different world leaders so far, Ankara is positioning itself as a critical mediator and a defensive bulwark. As the Operation Roaring Lion offensive enters its second week, Erdogan maintains that his greatest priority remains the peace and security of 86 million Turkish citizens. This has been Jane Coniter, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
As Operation Roaring Lion enters its 10th day, the Israel Defense Forces have issued a stark warning to Iran's newly appointed Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. Brigadier General Efi Defrin revealed Monday that Israeli strikes have already eliminated nearly 2,000 Iranian personnel and decimated the regime's strategic transport network. Almar Fursuelo has the details.
At a high-level briefing in Tel Aviv, IDF spokesperson Efi Dafrin delivered a grim assessment of the damage inflicted on the Iranian regime since the conflict began on February 28th. According to Dafrin, the Israeli Air Force has successfully destabilized Tehran, eliminating more than 1,900 soldiers and commanders in just 10 days of precision bombardment. The strikes have not been limited to personnel. Dafrin announced the destruction of 16 Quds Force transport planes, the primary artery for weapons and cash to regional proxies, along with the 6 major military airfields across Iran.
אנחנו פועלים כל העת לפגוע, להעמיק את הפגיעה באבני היסוד של המשטר האיראני. בטילי הקרקע אוויר, טילי הקרקע קרקע, במערכות הפיקוד ושליטה שלו, במערכי משמרות המהפכה שפוגעים, שעתידים לפגוע בישראל, במערכי הגרעין שלו. יש לנו עוד אלפי מטרות ויש לנו עוד מלאכה רבה לפנינו. כבר ערערנו אותו. הוא כבר מעורער, הוא פגוע, ואנחנו נמשיך לפגוע בו עד שיוסר האיום הזה. ייקח כמה שייקח, יימשך כמה שיימשך.
Addressing the appointment of Mujtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader, Dafrin was blunt. While refusing to detail specific follow-up plans, he stated that the blood of October 7th was on the hands of the Khamenei family and warned that anyone threatening Israeli citizens will be harmed. The conflict is also intensifying on Israel's northern border. The IDF reports hitting over 700 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, including 100 strikes against the elite Radwan force. In Beirut alone, 50 targets have been hit, including 35 high-rise buildings allegedly used as terror infrastructure.
לאורך היום, איראן וחיזבאללה המשיכו לירות לעבר ישראל. לצערי, כתוצאה מהירי, נרצחו 2 תושבים ונפצעו מספר אזרחים נוספים. אני רוצה לחזק מכאן את משפחותיהם ולמסור החלמה מהירה לפצועים. אני מבקש לשוב ולהדגיש, האיום עדיין קיים. יש לנו את מערך ההגנה האווירית הטוב בעולם, אך ההגנה היא לא הרמטית. האירועים האחרונים מלמדים אותנו עד כמה חשובה ההקפדה על הנחיות פיקוד העורף ועד כמה הן מצילות חיים.
Despite reports in the Washington Post suggesting Israel might be seeking an early exit from the war, Dafrin insisted the IDF has thousands of additional targets and a lot of work ahead. With the Iranian regime reportedly unstable, the IDF says it will continue to dismantle the Revolutionary Guard's structures until the existential threat to the state of Israel is permanently removed. Reporting for Newsline, World Almar Forsuelo, SMNI News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is warning that oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz could halt completely within a month and says Moscow may cut Europe off from Russian energy before the bloc gets out a chance to do it first. This report. The Strait of Hormuz, an important international corridor for cargo and energy trade, has experienced major disruptions due to the recent US and Israeli war against Iran. Russian President Vladimir Putin painted a stark picture of the global energy outlook, saying the Strait of Hormuz, that carries a fifth of the world's oil, is already effectively closed.
Сейчас этот маршрут фактически закрыт. Добыча нефти, которая завязана на использование пролива, рискует полностью остановиться уже в ближайший месяц. Она уже начала сокращаться. Хранилища в регионе заполняются нефтью, которую никак не вывести. Или очень сложно вывести, или очень дорого вывозить. Очевидно, что полное переключение поставок ближневосточной нефти без использования Ормузского пролива сейчас, во всяком случае сейчас, нереально.
Crude is already trading above $100 a barrel, with Iran's move to close the strait and regional producers declaring force majeure, sending energy markets into turmoil. Putin used the moment to position Russia as a stable alternative, saying Moscow would keep supplying oil and gas to reliable partners, including Slovakia and Hungary in Eastern Europe, as well as Asia-Pacific nations. He described the competition among buyers for secure energy supplies as intensifying and said Russia stood ready to meet that demand. On Europe, Putin's tone sharpened considerably, with the EU planning a full ban on Russian hydrocarbons, including liquefied natural gas, by April 25th. Putin said Moscow should not wait to be shown the door.
В этой связи перед правительством уже была поставлена задача оценить возможность и целесообразность прекращения поставок наших энергоресурсов на европейский рынок. не ждать, пока перед нами демонстративно захлопнут дверь, а сделать это уже сейчас. И увести эти объемы с европейского рынка на более интересные направления. Ну и закрепиться там, что самое главное. Вот сейчас конъюнктура складывается таким образом, что если мы переориентируемся прямо сейчас на те рынки, которые нуждаются в увеличении поставок, мы можем там сейчас и закрепиться. То есть там, где есть устойчивый, долгосрочный спрос и надежные отношения долгосрочного характера. В те государства, которые выстраивают с Россией конструктивные деловые отношения.
Putin left a window open, saying Russia had never refused to work with Europe and would welcome any signal that the bloc was prepared to offer long-term, stable cooperation free from political conditions.
Кстати сказать, я попросил вас прийти, чтобы посоветоваться по всем этим вопросам. Если европейские компании,
The EU approved a phased total ban on Russian pipeline and liquefied natural gas imports back in January, with a full cutoff mandated by the end of 2027. Putin's latest remarks suggest Moscow may not wait that long. China is calling for restraint and dialogue as global tensions intensify, urging respect for national sovereignty while condemning attacks on United Nations peacekeepers and defending its diplomatic ties with Russia. This report from Carla Abellana.
China has voiced its opposition to foreign interference in the internal affairs of other countries. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Gu Jiakun said Beijing is calling for an immediate end to military operation and to respect Iran's sovereignty. His remarks came after comments from Donald Trump about Iran's leadership, as Beijing emphasized that Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity must be respected.
中方反对以任何借口干涉他国内政。伊朗的主权安全和领土完整应当得到尊重。中方呼吁立即停止军事行动，尽快重回对话谈判，避免紧张局势进一步升级。
Beijing also condemned a missile attack that injured 2 peacekeepers from Ghana serving under the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon.
强烈谴责针对联黎部队的袭击，并向伤员表示慰问。任何蓄意攻击联合国维和人员的行为，都严重违反国际人道法和安理会第1701号决议，绝对不能接受，必须立即停止。中方敦促当事方立即采取措施，推动局势降温，保障联合国维和人员安全。
Meanwhile, China pushed back against remarks from Margus Takn regarding the allies of Russian President Vladimir Putin, urging Estonia to view Beijing's relations between Moscow in a more objective manner.
中国始终本着相互尊重、平等互利的原则，同包括俄罗斯在内的世界各国发展友好合作关系。希望爱方客观理性看待中俄关系，不要发表不负责任的言论。
Beijing also reiterated that its relationship with Russia is based on non-alliance and non-confrontation, while maintaining that its position on the Ukraine crisis remains consistent. Amid soaring oil prices and global market volatility linked to the conflict involving Iran, China also stressed the importance of stable energy supplies to the world economy.
具体问题建议向中方的主管部门进行了解。能源安全对世界经济至关重要，各方都有责任确保能源供应稳定畅通。中方将采取必要措施，保障自身能源安全。
Reporting for Newsline World, Carla Abellana, SMNI News.
With fuel prices climbing past a key threshold, South Korean drivers are going out of their way to find cheaper stations and counting on the government to step in. Joy Tabanao has more.
Gas is getting more expensive in Seoul and drivers are feeling it. Motorists are now lining up at stations offering lower prices after fuel costs in many areas cross 2,000 Korean won or $1.36 per liter. Some residents say they are willing to drive further just to save money at the pump.
동네 주유소 가격이 2,000원이 넘었더라고요. 그래서 이쪽 주유소 가격도 싸고 기름도 제 경험에는 훨씬 더 좋았기 때문에 일부러 나왔어요. 집에서 쉬다가.
Many are also looking to the government for relief, including the possible release of strategic oil reserves to help bring costs down.
근데 대통령님께서 유가를 좀 잡겠다고 말씀하셨으니까 그리고 비축된 유가가 있다고 제가 들었거든요. 기대하고 있습니다. 그래서 곧 내리기를.
Drivers say they are increasingly choosing stations based on price as fuel costs continue to fluctuate. For others, finding a bargain has simply become part of the daily routine.
볼일 보러 가다가 마침 중간에 다른 데보다 훨씬 싼 데가 있어서 들러서 기름 넣고 가고 있습니다.
As energy costs continue to fluctuate, Seoul residents say they are hoping authorities act quickly before prices climb even higher. This has been Joy Tibanao, your global citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
Up next, Philippines highlights women's role in national progress. Marcos Jr. tells the UN that women's status reflects a nation's strength and pledges international collaboration to protect and uplift them. And Senate heat intensifies over alleged corruption. Senator Rodante Marcoleta demands Blue Ribbon Committee hearings on the Brave 18 claims linking former soldiers to cash-filled flood control deals. More news when Newsline World returns.
Pasasaan pa ang kalayaan kung ang mga alipin ngayon ay sila din naman mang-aalipin bukas.
Ibigin mo ang iyong bayan ng sunod kay Bathala, sa iyong kapurihan at higit sa lahat sa iyong sarili.
Hindi natin mapapalaya ang ating mga sarili maliban kung sumunong tayo na nagkakaisa sa iisang hangarin.
Ang tunay na makabayan ay ang tumutupad ng pagpapabuti ng kanyang mga kapwa, gaano man kaaba ang kanyang katungkulan. Naway magsilbing paalala ang kanilang mga salita upang lalo nating mahalin at tapat na paglingkuran ang minamahal nating inang bayan.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. told world leaders that how women are doing is the clear sign of a nation's progress and pledged the Philippines' commitment to working with other countries to protect and uplift women everywhere. Creselyn Catarong reports.
At one of the world's biggest stages for gender equality, the Philippines made its voice heard. Speaking at the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women in New York, President Marcos said, empowering women is not just the right thing to do. It is essential to building a stronger nation.
We often speak of development in terms of economic growth, infrastructure, technology, or trade. But there is a simpler and more human measure. How are the women doing?
The president reaffirmed the Philippines' readiness to work hand in hand with other nations to advance and protect women's welfare.
In the Philippines, we are proud to say that we have long believed that empowering women is not merely a matter of fairness. It is a cornerstone of nation building.
The discussions in New York also tackled concrete steps, from removing discriminatory laws and expanding access to justice to opening more doors for women in education, work, and business.
Across many societies, women still face barriers that limit their opportunities. Too many continue to experience discrimination and violence. Too many girls are still denied the education that will allow them to shape their own futures.
Marcos also called on nations to stand together against violence targeting women, warning that such abuse does not just harm individuals, but tears apart communities and weakens the very foundation of justice. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Cresceline Catarom, SMNI News.
Senator Rodante Marcoleta is once again going after Senate Pro Tempore Ping Lacson, the chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee, demanding to know why the panel has yet to call hearings on the allegations made by the group known as the Brave 18. Marcoleta is questioning why the committee appears to be scrutinizing only select evidence, even as major political figures and personalities have been named by former soldiers who allegedly delivered cash-filled suitcases linked to flood control issue. Sheena Torno reports.
8 buwan na mula nang tumambad sa sambayanang Pilipino at sa buong mundo ang malawakang anomalya at korupsyon sa likod ng mga flood control projects. Pagkatapos ng 8 buwan, natukoy na ba kung sino ang mga walang hiya?
Those were the opening shots of Senator Rodante Marcoleta's privileged speech on the Senate floor this Monday, centering his message on what he called a stalled investigation into the flood control scandal. Marcoleta trained his fire on Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Senator Ping Lacson, accusing him of preemptively casting doubt of the credibility of 18 former Marines before any formal hearing had even been called. Rather than summon the witnesses, Marcoleta said Senator Lacson moved to discredit them, soldiers who allegedly hand-delivered cash to President Bongbong Marcos, former House Speaker Martin Romualdez, and former Ako Bicol Congressman Zaldico, at locations including a Forbes Park residence, Aguado in Malacanang, and the House of Representatives.
Pero ano po ang ginawa ng chairman ng BRC? Sa halip na iharap sa taong bayan at diretsahang tanungin sa kanilang mga pahayag, kahagad na pinag-alinlanganan ang kanilang kredibilidad. Bago pa man masuri ang kanilang salaysay sa harap ng Senado, tila nabuo na ang isang konklusyon sa mismong chairman na dapat sana ay siyang magsiyasat nito. Ipinagkibit-balikat na lamang ang kanilang mga salaysay nang hindi man lang binigyan ng oportunidad na sumagot sa mga konklusyon at teorya. Kung ang kanilang mga pahayag ay hindi kapani-paniwala, lalong nararapat na sila'y paharapin sa isang formal at pagdinig upang doon mismo masubok ang kanilang inihayag.
Marcoleta also questioned whether the committee chairman alone has the authority to decide which witnesses are called given that the panel has 20 members.
Ano bang patunay pa ang dapat nilang ilabas para lamang sila'y inyong umpisahang pakinggan? O baka gusto nilang ang maliit pa ang magsalita? Hindi raw kapani-paniwala. Sila nga ang inutusang magdala ng pera, Ginoong Pangulo. Kaya ang tanong, ano bang kinakatakutan ng chairman? Ano na po ba ang nangyari sa pagsunod sa ebidensya? O piling ebidensya lamang ba ang susuriin at ipipikit na lamang ang mata sa iba?
Marcoleta also questioned whether the committee was acting in the interests of the Filipino people or shielding powerful figures from scrutiny.
Hanggang kailan po tayo maghahalokip-kip ng mga kamay sa harap ng malawakan at karumal-dumal na paglima sa ating kabangbayan? Hanggang kailan po maghihintay sa wala ang taong bayan na mistulang ninakawan sa tanghaling tapat? Hanggang kailan ang mistulang pagbubulag-bulagan, Ginoong Pangulo?
Meanwhile, Senator Ping Lacson says he is ready to respond and will answer Marcoleta's privileged speech point by point, calling it short on research and fact-checking. Senator Lacson also stressed that Marcoleta's office received a copy of the committee's partial report as far back as February 11th, but the senator never signed it, not even to register a dissent. Senator Ping Lacson added that as a chairman, he was the first to sign the report before it was circulated, directly contradicting Marcoleta's claim. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Sheena Torno, SMNI News.
Amid the lack of facilities and teachers in remote areas across the Philippines, several senators backed the proposed law that aims to provide broader support to schools in far-flung and impoverished communities in the country. Angel Pastor reports.
Some Philippine senators are backing a bill seeking to improve the quality of education in schools located in distant and underserved communities. Senator Bam Aquino is pushing Senate Bill number 1937, or the Geographically Isolated and Disadvantaged Areas or GAIDA Schools Act, to strengthen public basic education in remote locations. The measure aims to ensure that every child living in a GAIDA has access to quality education through adequate teachers, proper facilities, and community support. Under the bill, schools must be within 3 kilometers of students' homes. If this is not feasible due to the geographic of the area, the government will provide safe transportation for students. The proposal also includes improving classrooms, providing learning materials, and offering a curriculum that is culturally relevant and suited to the community's conditions. Additional benefits will be granted to teachers working in GAIDAs, including hardship pay, transportation support, and housing assistance. Senator Pia Cayetano also backs the measure. As chairperson of the Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovation, and Futures Thinking, she emphasizes the importance of improving connectivity and incorporating community culture to better empower the youth. Senator Robin Padilla, as a co-sponsor, likewise expressed full support for the bill. He noted the clear challenges faced by many indigenous peoples' communities, which are often located in remote areas and difficult for government services to reach. Senator Erwin Tulfo emphasized the importance of advancing the bill to provide clearer and continuous support for classrooms, teachers, and learning resources in remote communities. Senator Jinggoy Estrada also expressed support and announced his intention to be co-author and co-sponsor of the measure. Estrada stressed the importance of promoting inclusive and quality education so that no Filipino child is left behind, especially those in far-flung areas. For God of my beloved Philippines, Angel Pastor, SMNI News.
More than a decade after the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, officials say much of the Fukushima region is now safe for residents to live in. But the road to fulfill or to full recovery is far from over. Prince Tripoli has a story.
It has been 14 years since a massive earthquake and tsunami triggered the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster, forcing thousands of families to flee their homes overnight. Today, much of that region is coming back to life. Japan's Environment Ministry says cleanup and monitoring efforts have made steady progress, though some areas remain off limits.
福島は2011年の事故によって大変な損害を被りまして避難を余儀なくされた方々というのもいますが、今福島そのものということであれば安心して住んでいただける場所になっているかなと思います。ただ引き続き制限されたエリアというのがありますので、そこの除染に関しては引き続き実施をしていく必要がありますので、環境省としてしっかり取り組んでまいりたいというふうに考えております。
Radiation monitoring and contaminated soil management remain central to the recovery, with large storage sites still holding soil collected during years of decontamination work.
福島には今も帰還ができないエリアというのがありますが、帰還困難区域の外側については安心して住んでいただける場所になっていると思います。帰還困難区域の中については引き続き除染の努力を行っていくというふうになっていますので、我々はそこの努力をですね引き続き着実に進めていきたいと考えています。
Despite the progress, some homes remain abandoned as not all residents have returned. But for many, coming back was never a simple decision. One local resident spent nearly 8 years living away before finally coming back to his hometown.
ここから西の方にある福島市、というところに避難して、そこで、およそ7年から8年ほど滞在して、こちらに戻ってきました。
He says science has given him confidence and hopes others can find the same reassurance.
一応科学的に大丈夫だということはもう証明されているので、そこは納得してくれというわけではないですけど、そういうものだというふうに思ってくれればいいかなというふうに思います。
As abandoned homes slowly fill again and communities piece themselves back together, officials say they remain committed to the long road ahead as communities in Fukushima gradually rebuild their lives. This has been Jane Cogniter, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
For showbiz news, action movie star Jean-Claude Van Damme, widely known as the Muscles from Brussels, is stepping into the art world, unveiling a new exhibition showcasing his creative side in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, a Florida woman has been identified as the main suspect in the shooting incident outside of Beverly Hills, home of global pop star Rihanna. Andrea Santos is all the buzz.
The martial arts icon, famous for blockbuster films such as Bloodsport and Kickboxer, has launched an art exhibition that blends action, movement, and personal expression. The show features a series of bold paintings and visual pieces inspired by Van Damme's decades-long career in action, cinema, and martial arts. The exhibition is being held in Hong Kong, drawing fans and art enthusiasts curious to see the Hollywood star's latest creative venture beyond the silver screen. Van Damme says the artworks reflect his passion for movement and discipline, qualities that defined his career in martial arts and film. Organizers say the exhibition highlights another dimension of the actor's personality, transforming the high-energy style that made him famous into visual art pieces on display for the public. Authorities in Los Angeles say 35-year-old Ivan Ortiz has been arrested and charged with attempted murder after allegedly opening fire at the singer's residence. Police say the suspect is currently being held on a $10.2 million bail following the incident. The shooting happened on Sunday while Rihanna was reportedly inside the property she shares with her partner, rapper A$AP Rocky. No injuries have been reported, but investigators say the incident prompted a major police response in the upscale Beverly Hills neighborhood. Authorities have not yet disclosed the possible motive, and the investigation into the shooting remains ongoing. And that's all for now. I'm Andrea Santos, bringing you the latest showbuzz.
In sports, England wing Tom Roebuck says the team remains united despite growing pressure after a series of losses in the Six Nations. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City Thunder guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has tied Wilt Chamberlain's record with 126 consecutive NBA games scoring at least 20 points. This reports.
England is under heavy scrutiny after losing to Scotland, Ireland, and Italy in the tournament, including a historic defeat to Italy, their first loss to a team in 33 test meetings. The result has left England close to what could become their worst Six Nations campaign. During the Italy march, Captain Maro Itoje and fly half Finn Smith were heard arguing over whether to kick for goal or go for the corner after a penalty, with Itoje telling Smith to take the three. The Rugby Football Union later backed head coach Steve Borthwick, but admitted the results had been hugely disappointing and said it would review the reasons behind the team's struggles. Despite the criticism, Roebuck said the players remain united and had a discussion after the Italy defeat to make sure the squad stays together and works to improve their performances. Gilgeous-Alexander reached the milestone against the Denver Nuggets, hitting a third-quarter three-pointer that brought him past 20 points for the game. His streak began on October 30, 2024, with a 20-point performance in a win over the San Antonio Spurs and has continued without dropping below 20 points in any game since. The Thunder star is averaging 31.6 points per game this season and has maintained 30-plus points per game across the past 4 seasons, including leading the league with 32.7 points per game during his 2024-2025 MVP campaign. Chamberlain set the original record while playing for the Warriors from 1961 to 1963, spanning the team's move from Philadelphia to San Francisco. Gilgeous-Alexander will have the chance to break the record Thursday when the Thunder face the Boston Celtics at home.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the sun. In everything you want to do, if you're committed, if you're consistent, you will succeed. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Carlo de la Peña. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.